I was actually going to watch a different movie last night, but instead I was browsing around the TV channels and I saw 1408 was on, and I haven't seen this movie in 4 years maybe, and I remember really liking it back when I watched it for the first time. So I wondered if it held up over all these years, and I have to say that it holds up pretty well actually. John Cusack plays a writer who is a sort of like he stays in haunted hotels and he writes about his experiences there to see if they're really haunted or not, and usually they end up being fake gimmicks and stuff like that. So he naturally progresses to be a very skeptic guy. So he hears about this really famous hotel in the city where there's a room called 1408, and a lot of murders happen there. A lot of people, like anybody who's ever stayed there, has never been found and have either killed themselves or never been found or died or whatever. And so John Cusack is obviously calling bullshit on this, and he wants to go stay at this hotel room. So he goes, and Samuel L. Jackson plays this really creepy guy who works at the desk, the concierge, and he gives him the key after many, many warnings not to, and John Cusack stays in this hotel room. Right off the bat, I have to say that the music in this movie is actually really, really good. Really sets the tone well. I'm not really one to rate film scores or anything, but it's one of the better horror movie scores that I've heard. I really, really enjoyed it. And another thing that I really liked about this movie was this movie is the closest thing to Silent Hill that we'll get, rather than the Silent Hill movie, which I didn't think was a bad movie, by the way. Silent Hill, the movie, is actually totally underrated, but it took a lot of liberties with its plot and how it actually handled the town of Silent Hill. This movie kind of feels like what's the Silent Hill movie kind of should have been like. It focused on a singular character just dealing with all of these things from his past that manifest into these disgusting monsters and events that happen throughout his life and his time that he stayed there. It was really, really compelling to see all of these things kind of like manifest themselves, and how creative the director was, how creative he got with these ideas that John Cusack's character was going through. Like, for instance, he had a daughter that died, and she appears at random points as this like spectrally, I guess, deformed and grotesque creature that haunts John Cusack at some points in the movie. And then there's other points in the movie where they address other points of his past, like his father's death, with the one section where the bathroom turns into like this freezer. And I didn't really wrap my head all around it when I first watched it. I just thought it was a pretty compelling and scary movie. But as I watched the movie last night, I really started to see parallels between Silent Hill and this movie. And Silent Hill is my favorite video game series of all time. So it was really, really cool to see that these parallels, these comparisons being drawn from both of these intellectual properties. The cinematography was pretty okay. They didn't really do much because it was set all in a singular location, but they made it work. It wasn't really, groundbreaking or anything, but there were some interesting shots in there. I really enjoyed that. I have to say the strongest point of this movie is the direction. It starts off very slow, and then it continues to be slow while the scary stuff is going on. But near about the halfway point in the movie, it really starts to pick up, and I really, really enjoyed the liberties that the director took with how to convey John Cusack's emotions and his performance in this movie, because John Cusack's great in this movie. He's really, really good in this movie. He really convinces the part of a struggling alcoholic writer who's a skeptic and he's a cynic, and whose daughter died and his wife divorced him. He's just having a shit time. And John Cusack really portrayed that part well. It's not really Oscar worthy, but still, it's a pretty compelling performance, and John Cusack really sells it. It's one of his better roles, I would say, and out of his entire filmography. Samuel L. Jackson was pretty good too. He was sufficiently creepy as the concierge of the hotel, but his character was kind of weak in my opinion. Albeit a good performance, but his character, all it boils down to is, John Cusack, don't go in that room, you're gonna die, many people have died, it's not good. And then he like disappears for like half the movie, and then he comes back and he's like, well, John Cusack, what did I tell you? Shouldn't have went in that room, now everything's gonna be all fucked up for you. As opposed to the things that I didn't like about this movie, I thought some of the CGI was a little iffy, and they took a lot of stupid things. They did a lot of stupid things with the story. Like, when they show all the people that live there killing themselves, it's like this really like hazy like ghost that looks kind of terrible. And it shows like these ghosts like killing themselves, and it's a little stupid. And the ending kind of doesn't really make all that much sense, but it's nice to see. I guess it's okay to see a happy end. I don't know. Like the ending didn't really agree with me. It's sort of a happy ending, but kind of not really, and it's very tonally inconsistent, and that's a little, maybe just a little nitpick that I have. But I maybe some people won't see it that way, but I definitely do. I don't know. It was just something that caught my attention. 1408 is a pretty compelling movie. I definitely recommend everybody watch it. It's not the greatest, like it's not the greatest horror movie around, but it's definitely better than anything that we're getting from like found footage movies that cost like $1 million to make, if that. And it was really cool to see that back in like 2008. I think this came out, like a nice return to form of like a slow paced and carefully calculated horror movie like that we got in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it was a really cool thing to see. I'm gonna give 1408 a 7 out of 10. Definitely check it out if you have the time. Don't make time to go see it. Like if it's on, check it out. It's a pretty good movie. If you have it like on demand or something, yeah, if you're looking for something to watch, definitely go see it. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.